Welcome to a lesson about identifying the different ways pieces of writing can be organized. Where is the author coming from? Fact, opinion, and bias. Some writing is neutral and fact-based, but often pieces of writing come from a definite point of view. Authors mix their own opinion in with the facts they use to give a slant to what they write. Readers also bring their own points of view to what they read. So, while authors often bring their biases to what they write, readers have their own biases as well. Distinguishing fact from opinion, recognizing bias, and being able to determine an author's credibility are all important parts of being an active reader. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to distinguish between fact and opinion, recognize how an author's beliefs and opinions form a point of view, recognize how a reader's beliefs and opinions also form a point of view, examine the relationship between the author's and the reader's points of view. Define the term bias. Identify examples of bias in pieces of writing. Differentiate between examples of biased, opinionated writing and examples of neutral, factual writing. Examine how to determine an author's credibility. Here are the latest headlines from my life. New peer review model at work. My supervisors are reviewing me too. Someone has it in for me. It's performance review time, and now, in addition to my bosses reviewing my work, my peers are too, and it's not pretty. Every year, my bosses in the medical office where I work give me a performance review. Usually what happens is that Dr. Myers writes my review after talking to the other doctors to get their feedback. Usually my reviews are positive overall, but sometimes I get a needs improvement in one or two areas that I need to work on over the following year. This review format is still happening, but a new doctor in the office, Dr. Jameson, introduced something new this year. Now there will be a peer performance review as well. I get to rate the performance of my peers. They get to rate my performance. In addition to getting a single review from our superiors, we also get reviews from everyone else we work with. The problem is that one of my peers has rated my performance really low. I don't know who because the reviews are anonymous, but someone really got nasty about my work. The review says that I'm unprofessional, dishonest, unethical, and incompetent. It pretty much said nothing good at all. Dr. Myers, in his own review, said that he didn't see any of these negative qualities in my work, and neither did the other doctors in the office. He felt I could use some improvement in a couple areas, but nothing alarming. He did say, though, that this negative peer review was troubling for some of the other doctors. There's a feeling that maybe they haven't been watching my performance enough, that perhaps I have something to hide. I don't know who has it in for me around here, but they definitely haven't done me any favors. When people show a strong bias in what they write, like this peer of mine did in the performance review, I need to be able to take a step back and honestly assess the credibility of what I'm reading. What are the facts in what I'm reading? How much is opinion? And is the opinion part credible? Should I accept the author's opinion, or should I doubt the author's credibility? This is what I've learned. Many pieces of writing use facts to support the author's opinion. An author's beliefs and opinions form a point of view that influences that author's writing. Readers bring their own point of view with them when they read about what authors write. Analyzing someone's point of view can determine how biased they are. When authors aren't credible and show too much bias, their point of view isn't something I should trust. My review from Dr. Myers this year was mostly positive, but he did mention a couple areas where I needed to show improvement. Lately, I didn't seem to be as friendly with patients and coworkers as I usually was. It wasn't that I was unfriendly, but I didn't seem as cheerful and outgoing as usual. I've been pulling back from tasks like data entry and insurance coding, letting other receptionists take up the slack while I answer the phone and greet patients. The doctors want me to step up more in performing data entry and coding duties. I think these criticisms are both valid, and I think the reason for both is simple exhaustion. Between school and work and kids, I've been running myself ragged. I just don't feel up to being super cheerful with people. I also have been afraid that I'll make a coding or data entry mistake because I'm so tired. I'll have to work on getting the rest I need, though, so I can perform my duties better. But when Dr. Myers showed me a review from one of my peers, I was floored. It was one of the most hateful things I've ever read, and definitely the most hateful thing I've ever read about me. Dr. Myers said that my other peer reviews were mostly positive and didn't mention any significant problems. But this one review was very critical, he said. I guess very critical didn't prepare me for how nasty it really was. Here are some highlights. Jennifer never has time to help anyone and actually seems to hate having to lift her finger to do anything at all. She's nasty and never has a decent or kind word to say about anybody. She pretends to be your friend only to find out enough about you to really stick the knife in when she starts insulting you. She lies and says she's done things she hasn't, or that other people are to blame for her mistakes. She steals credit for things she has nothing to do with at all and acts like a spoiled princess people should fawn over. She thinks she's some kind of beauty queen and is always putting down how other people look, making fun of their clothes, weight, and hair. I just can't believe it! I don't know who would say these things about me. Angela, a medical assistant in the office, isn't exactly a huge fan of mine, but she's the kind of person who would say these things to my face, not sneak these criticisms into an anonymous review. Also, her main problem with me is that she thinks I'm not really cut out for anything more than the receptionist work I'm already doing. I can't see her being the one who wrote this stuff. But who did? Who hates me this much? I thought I got along with everyone here really well, but someone here can't stand me. It's quite a shock. Now I keep wondering who it is. Is what this review says about me true? I don't think so. I mean, it is a fact, as far as I'm concerned, that I've never taken credit for something I haven't done. It's a fact that I've never blamed someone else for my mistakes. A fact is something that is verifiably true. If someone thinks I've done these things, then I want to know specifics. What are the actual instances of me stealing credit or casting blame? It's also not true that I never help anyone. It's not true that I never say anything nice to anyone. I can't think of when I've ever knowingly insulted anyone, and I certainly don't go on about how anyone looks. I don't cozy up to people just to know what their weak points are. None of these comments, as far as I can tell, have anything to do with the truth. A performance review is the kind of thing that involves opinion. It's at least partially subjective because it involves someone's point of view on another person's performance. But some reviews stick closely to the facts, and others are more baseless opinion. Dr. Myers gave me a fact-based review. It was his opinion, and the opinion of the other doctors in the office, that I haven't been as friendly as usual lately, or as involved in things like data entry and coding. That's an opinion, but it's very much based in fact. I honestly have to say that he's right. I haven't been as friendly or as involved in my data entry and coding duties. The opinion matches the reality here. This other review, though, doesn't seem to have anything to do with the facts. Either I have an evil twin who is doing all this stuff, or this person is just making stuff up to hurt me. This person clearly has the opinion that I'm a worthless, terrible person, but that opinion doesn't seem to be based in fact at all. Everyone has a point of view. A point of view can be a way of looking at the world, or it can be specific to a particular thing or person. It's basically a perspective, a way of looking at something. I have a point of view, for example, on parenting. There are definitely things I think are appropriate to do as a parent. There are also things that I believe a parent shouldn't do. My point of view on parenting is my opinion about it. It's how I see it. Other people might have different points of view on the same subject. That's because they have different opinions, different ways of looking at it. When an author expresses a point of view in a piece of writing, that piece of writing represents the author's opinion in some way. Probably all persuasive writing is like this. The author has a point of view, an opinion about something, and tries to convince the reader to accept that point of view by making an argument of some sort. Informative writing tends to have less of a definite point of view. A textbook, for example, usually doesn't have much of a point of view. This is because a textbook is primarily concerned with clearly presenting factual information. The author's own opinion isn't the issue. Presenting the facts about a subject as clearly and simply as possible is the main concern of a textbook author, not trying to express his or her own point of view on the subject. Where does point of view end and bias begin? They are kind of the same thing in the sense that bias does reflect a point of view, but bias is a particular kind of point of view. When someone has a bias, that means they have a prejudice about something. We often think of prejudice in terms of race, but a person doesn't have to be prejudiced against someone's race to be prejudiced. A person might think, for example, that all poor people are lazy, or all rich people have worked hard for their wealth. These are biases this person has. Are biases right to have? Biases tend toward unfairness, favoritism, and preconceptions. If someone has a strong bias, then that person isn't likely to listen to anything that goes against that person's bias. So that person has a closed mind when it comes to that bias. Also, extreme biases don't admit exceptions. The ideas that all poor people are lazy and all rich people have worked hard for their wealth are enormous generalizations. This is a tip-off that their biases are unfair. Everyone has at least a little bit of a bias about something, but extreme biases tend to be unfair. Spotting bias is a good way of thinking about someone's credibility. I can't believe how negative this person's review is, so I think it's literally incredible, as in not credible at all. A person's point of view is credible if you think it can be believed. Whether a person is credible or not depends on how biased that person seems to be and how honest or fact-based that person's opinions are. An unbiased opinion is backed up by facts and evidence. A person with an honest opinion can point to verifiable facts and specific examples to back up his or her claim. That doesn't necessarily mean that person's opinion is correct, but at least that person is trying to support his or her opinion with evidence. A biased opinion doesn't rely on fact, or it takes facts out of context and twists them around. Usually a person has a biased opinion because of a strong prejudice in favor of that opinion. The person wants to believe that opinion even if the facts don't support it. I can spot a biased opinion if it doesn't seem to be backed up with facts, or the facts seem to be invented or twisted around to say something untrue. Congratulations, you've completed this section. Keep up the good work and move on to the next section.